Microsoft gave you Windows 11 for free, a full operating system upgrade. No charge, no subscription, no upfront cost. You clicked a button, waited for a download, and your computer transformed into the latest version of Windows without spending a single dollar. And if that's you, NDS too good to be true, it's because it is, because you did pay for Windows 11. You're paying for it right now as you watch this video if your computer is running it. You're paying with something more valuable than money. You're paying with your data, your behavior, your habits, your attention, your digital identity. Every click, every search, every file you open, every application you launch, every website you visit, every word you type, every device you connect, every setting you change. All of it collected, packaged, transmitted, and processed by Microsoft continuously, automatically, without meaningful interruption, from the moment you boot your computer to the moment why you shut it down. This is Microsoft's dirty secret. Not that they collect data. Everyone vaguely knows that. The dirty secret is the scope. The sheer, staggering, comprehensive scale of what Windows 11 collects about you, how little of it you can actually stop, and how deliberately Microsoft has designed the system to make opting out as difficult and as incomplete as possible. I'm going to show you exactly what bars at Windows 11 is collecting. Not the vague, sanitized descriptions from Microsoft's privacy page, the specific, technical, documented data flows that run beneath the surface of your operating system every minute of every day. And by the time I'm done, you'll understand that the $0 price tag on your Windows 11 upgrade wasn't generosity. It was a business decision. Because what Microsoft gets from you in return is worth far more than any license fee they could have charged. Let's start with what Microsoft calls required diagnostic data. This is baseline. The minimum. The data that Windows 11 collects regardless of what settings you configure, what toggles you disable, what preferences you set. You cannot turn this off. Not on Windows 11 Home, not on Windows 11 Pro. Only Enterprise and Education editions offer the ability to fully disable telemetry, and even then, it requires group policy modifications that most IT administrators don't implement. Our required diagnostic data includes your device configuration, the exact hardware in your machine, your processor, your RAM, your storage capacity, your display resolution, your battery capacity, your network adapters, the peripherals you've connected, every webcam, every printer, every scanner, every USB drive, every Bluetooth device, their names, their driver versions, their connection status. It includes you, our operating system details, your exact build number, your update history, your installed patches, your system architecture, which feature S are enabled, which features are disabled, how your system is configured at a granular level. It includes application data, which applications are installed on your computer, when you launch them, how long you use them, when they crash, what errors they produce, what modules they load, which versions you're running. It includes networking information, your available Wi-Fi networks, your connection type, your network adapter details, not your browsing history at this level, but the infrastructure that connects you to the internet. It includes update and installation records. Every update that has been applied to your system when it was applied, whether it succeeded or failed, and what errors occurred during the process. This data flows from your computer to Microsoft's servers continuously. The service responsible for this transmission is called CONIC, TED User Experiences and Telemetry, internally known as DiagTrack. It runs as a background service on every Windows 11 installation. It starts when your computer boots. It runs until your computer shuts down. It maintains persistent connections to Microsoft's telemetry endpoints and transmits data at regular intervals. You can see the service running on your computer right now. Press Windows plus R, type services, .msc, press enter, scroll down to connected user experiences and telemetry. It's there, it's running. It's been running since you turned on your computer this morning, and it will keep running until you turn your computer off tonight. Tomorrow it will start again. That's the baseline, the minimum, the data you cannot prevent Windows 11 from collecting. And it already paints a comprehensive picture of your device, your software, your usage patterns, and your computing environment. Now let's talk about optional diagnostic data. This is the category that Microsoft generously allows you to disable through settings. Navigate to privacy and security, then diagnostics and defeedback, and toggle send optional diagnostic data to off. Microsoft positions this as a meaningful privacy choice. You're in control. You decide how much data to share. But look at what optional diagnostic data includes when it's enabled, which it is by default on a fresh Windows 11 installation. Browsing history. Your complete browsing activity in Microsoft browsers, including every website you visit, every search term you type, and every configuration change you make in the browser. Device connectivity and configuration data. More, granular details about your hardware and connected devices beyond what required data already captures. Models, firmware versions, data-led network configurations, available local networks, inking, typing, and speech utterance data. Samples of what you type on your keyboard. Obviously, samples of what you write with a stylus, samples of what you dictate through voice input, actual content you've produced, transmitted, TO Microsoft for the stated purpose of improving recognition accuracy. Product and service performance data. More detailed performance me, tricks about how Windows and its services operate on your machine, crash dumps, error logs, detailed system state information at the time of failures, software setup, and inventory data. A complete inventory of every application installed on your machine, including how they were installed, their update history, and their current state. Each of these categories represents a river of data flowing from your computer to Microsoft. And while you can disable optional data rough settings, the toggle is a binary choice, on or off. You cannot selectively choose to share error reports, but not browsing history. You cannot share device information, but not typing samples. It's all or nothing. And since the required data still flows regardless, de-isabling optional data reduces your exposure, but never eliminates it. And here's where the dirty secret gets dirtier. Because the telemetry I've described so far, the required and optional diagnostic data, is just the visible layer. It's the data collection that Microsoft FT documents, that privacy researchers can analyze, that shows up in the Diagnostic Data Viewer tool that Microsoft helpfully provides. Beneath that documented layer exists a second layer of data collection embedded in the services that Windows 11 runs by default. OneDrive vSynchronization monitors your documents, desktop, and pictures folders and transmits file metadata, synchronization status, and file change events to Microsoft servers. Windows Search indexes your files and transmits search queries when web results are enabled. Court ANA and Copilot process voice queries, text inputs, and contextual data through Microsoft's cloud services. Smart Screen sends URL hashes and file hashes to Microsoft servers to check for known threats. Activity history tracks your application usage, file interactions, and browsing across devices. Each of these services has its own data collection mechanism. Each one has its own privacy toggle buried, so we're in settings. Each one is enabled by default, and each one requires the user to know it exists, know where to find the toggle, and actively choose to disable it. The burden of privacy is entirely on the user, and the default state is maximum collection. Microsoft assigned Windows 11 so that a user who accepts every default, who clicks through setup without changing anything, who never opens the privacy settings page, sends the maximum possible amount of data to Microsoft. Everything is on, everything is collecting, everything is and smitting. And the only way to reduce this is to actively hunt through dozens of settings pages and individually disable each collect and mechanism. This is not an accident, this is architecture. This is a system designed to maximize data collection from the majority of users who accept defaults, while providing just enough toggle switches to maintain the appearance of user control for the minority who go looking for them. And the data itself, the aggregate of everything Windows 11 collects when all defaults are accepted, creates something that no user explicitly consented to create. A comprehensive behavioral profile of how you use your computer, what you do, when you do it, how long you spend doing it, what tools you use, what content you create, what mistakes you make, what websites you visit, what ICEs you own, what networks you connect to. A profile that is transmitted to Microsoft's servers, processed by Microsoft's systems, and are retained under Microsoft's terms of service. The $0 upgrade wasn't free. You are the product. And Windows 11 is the collection mechanism. Now let me show you something that most people never think to look at. Because the data collection I described in the first section, NDS abstract. It sounds like corporate jargon about diagnostic information and telemetry endpoints. It sounds like something that happened in the background to anonymous data for harmless purposes. Microsoft has spent years cultivating that perception, and it's a master of UL piece of corporate framing. So let me make it concrete. Let me show you what your computer is actually doing right now at this moment while you watch this video. If you're on Windows 11, open Task Manager. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus Escape. Click the Details tab. SORT by name. Now look for these processes. DiagTrack. This is the connected user experiences and telemetry service. It's running right now. It has been running since you booted your computer. It is actively collecting diagnostic data and queuing it for transmission to Microsoft servers. You didn't start it. You can't permanently stop it without modifying system services in ways that Microsoft explicitly discourages, and that can be reversed by future updates. Search host.txt. This is the Windows Search Indexer. It's scanning your files right now, reading document contents, file names, metadata, timestamps, building a searchable database of everything on your hard drive. If W, EB search integration is enabled, which it is by default. Your local search queries are also sent to Bing's servers, generating advertising revenue for Microsoft from your search activity on your own computer. OneDrive.exe. If you signed into a Microsoft account during C, TUP, which Windows 11 essentially forces you to do, OneDrive is running. It's monitoring your documents, desktop, and pictures folders. Every file you save, every file you modify, every file you delete in those folders is detected by OneDrive and synchronized to Microsoft. Plus cloud servers. Your personal files on your hard drive being transmitted to servers you don't control by a service you didn't explicitly choose to activate. MoUsoCoreWorker.exe. This is the Windows Update Orchestrator. It runs in the background, checking Microsoft's and whole servers for available updates, downloading update packages, staging installations. It decides when your computer will restart for Update S. It makes this decision based on its own assessment of your usage patterns. Microsoft's algorithm decides when you're not using your computer and initiates a restart. Your schedule, your workflow, your decision about when to restart, all overridden by a background ProCSS running on your own machine. Widget service.exe. This process maintains the Windows 11 widget panel. Even if you never open the widget panel, even if you've never clicked on it, even if you don't know what it is, this service runs in the background. It maintains connections to Microsoft's content servers. It downloads news stories, weather data, financial information, sports scores. It generates network traffic and consumes memory for a feature designed to capture your attention and serve you content curated by Microsoft's algorithms. These are just 5 processes. There are dozens more, each one individually performing a small, specific function. Each one individual like consuming a small amount of your hardware resources, and each one individually creating a data flow between your computer and Microsoft. FT's servers that you didn't request, don't benefit from, and in most cases didn't know existed. Now let me show you what these processes look like from the network side, because the data collection isn't just theoretical. It produces observable, measurable network traffic. Security researchers and privacy advocates have conducted detailed network analyses of Windows 11's communication patterns. The result generates network traffic to Microsoft's servers continuously, persistently, without interruption. The destinations include micro-targeting, Microsoft's update servers, which check for new patches, Microsoft's smart screen servers, which receive URL and file hashes, and Microsoft's OneDrive servers, which check synchronization status, Microsoft's search servers, which process indexing queries, Microsoft's content delivery networks, which feed the widget panel. Your computer, doing nothing, sitting idle on your desk, is having dozens of conversations with Microsoft servers. Conversations about you, conversations you didn't initiate, conversations you can't see without SPY, serialized network monitoring tools, conversations that consume your bandwidth, your battery life, and your hardware resources for purposes that serve Microsoft, not you. I ran a network monitor on a clean Windows 11 installation for 24 hours. No applications were opened. No browser was launched. The computer sat idle for the entire period. During those 24 hours, Windows 11 made over 5,000 connection attempts to external servers. The vast majority were to Microsoft's infrastructure. That's roughly 1 connection attempt EV. Documented similar findings for years, but most people never see it because they never look. And they never look because Microsoft has design being transmitted. No notification announces that OneDrive is syncing your files. No indicator shows that your search queries are being NT to Bing. The collection happens silently in the background beneath the surface of an interface that presents itself as clean, motor N, and user-friendly. Now, let me address the question that Microsoft's defenders always raise at this point. They say the data is anonymized. They say it's pseudonymized. They say it's aggregated. They say it's used to improve Windows for everyone. They say the collection is harmless because no individual is being targeted or identified. Let me explain why these assurances are insufficient. First, pseudonymized data is not anonymous data. Pseudonymization replaces direct identifiers like your name with a code, but the data itself, the detailed behavioral profile of how you use your computer, is still unique to you. Research has consistently demonstrated that pseudonymized datasets can be re-identified using as few as 3 or 4 data points. Your installed applications, your hardware configuration, your usage patterns, and your connected devices create a fingerprint that is effectively unique. The pseudonym doesn't protect you if the underlying data is identifiable. Second, aggregation happens after collection, not instead of collection. Microsoft collects individual level data from your machine. They then aggregate it for analysis. But the individual data exists on their servers before aggregate tie-in occurs. It is subject to their data retention policies, their security practices, and their legal obligations. If a government suppo enas Microsoft for user data, aggregated statistics aren't what they receive. They receive the individual records that were collected from Windows M-specific devices. Third, data breaches don't respect anonymization promises. If Microsoft's telemetry infrastructure is compromised, and large-scale data breaches happen regularly at major technology companies, the exposed data isn't an abstract statistical summary, it's the raw behavioral records collected from individual devices, linked to device identifiers, account credentials, and usage patterns. The promise of anonymization is only as strong as the security of the infrastructure that stores the raw data. And fourth, Microsoft's terms of service give the company broad latitude to use collected data in ways that may evolve over time. The data you send to Microsoft today is governed by today's privacy policy, but Microsoft can update that policy. They have updated it repeatedly over the last decade. Each update has generally expanded, not contracted, the scope of what Microsoft can do with collected data. The data you consented to send for one purpose can be repurposed under a future policy revision that you accept by continuing to use the operating system. Now let me talk about what Microsoft does with all of this data, because the stated purpose, improving Windows, doesn't account for the scale and comprehensiveness of the collection. You don't need to know what applications a user has installed, how long they use each one, what websites why or how visit, and what they type on their keyboard to fix bugs and deliver updates. The scope of collection vastly exceeds the stated purpose. The real purpose is revealed in Microsoft's financial statements. Advertising revenue. Microsoft's advertising business generated approximately $12.4 billion in fiscal year 2024. That revenue comes from targeted advertising across Microsoft's properties, including Bing, MSN, Outlook, and the Windows Start menu. The behavioral data collected through Windows Telemetry feeds the advertising targeting systems that generate this revenue. When you see a promoted application in your Start menu, that promotion was targeted based on data Microsoft collected about you. When you see a personalized news story in the widget panel, that story was selected based on your behavioral profile. When you see a suggested product in Microsoft Edge, that suggestion was informed by your browsing patterns, your search history, and your application usage. The $0 upgrade gave Microsoft a direct pipeline into the behavior of hundreds of millions of users. That pipeline feeds an advertising engine generates billions of dollars in annual revenue. You are not the customer of Windows 11. You are the product. The customers are the advertisers who pay Microsoft to reach you based on the behavioral profile that Windows 11 builds from your activity. This is the business model. Me, not a conspiracy, not a secret plot. A documented, publicly reported, financially disclosed business model in which user data collected through the operating system generates advertising revenue that subsidizes the cost of giving that operating system away for free. The $0 price tag makes perfect financial sense when you understand that every Windows 11 installation is a data collection terminal that feeds a multi-billion-dollar advertising business. Charging for the operating system would reduce adoption. Reduced adoption would UC data collection. Reduced data collection would reduce advertising revenue. Giving Windows away for free maximizes the number of data collection terminals in the field, which maximizes the behavioral data available for ad targeting, which maximizes the revenue generated from that data. You didn't get Windows 11 for free. You got it in exchange for becoming a continuous, permanent, comprehensive source of behavioral data from Microsoft's advertising machine. Now let me show you exactly how deep this goes, because everything I've described so far, the telemetry, the background services, the network traffic, the advertising pipeline, all of it is the system operating normally, operating as designed, operating within the boundaries that Microsoft openly documents, even if they don't publicize them. But there's an other layer, the layer that Microsoft actively doesn't want you thinking about, the layer where the data collection stops being about diagnostics and advertising and starts being about something more fundamental. Control. Consider the Microsoft account requirement. Windows 11 requires you to sign into a Microsoft account during setup. This single design decision transforms your relationship with your compute-R in ways that most people don't fully grasp. When you sign into a Microsoft account during Windows 11 setup, your local user profile OMES linked to a cloud identity, your device ID is tied to your account, your license is tied to your account, your settings sync to your account, your OneDrive storage is tied to your account, your application purchases through the Microsoft Store are tied to your account. Your email through Outlook is tied to your account. Your documents through Microsoft 365, if you subscribe, are tied to your account. This isn't convenience, it's centralization. Every aspect of your digital life funneled through a single identity that Microsoft controls. And because Microsoft controls that identity, they control access to everything attached to it. If Microsoft suspends your account, why? Lose access to your purchased applications. If Microsoft changes the terms of OneDrive, your files are affected. If Microsoft modifies the pricing of Microsoft 365, your workflow is impacted. If Microsoft decides to enforce a policy you disagree with, your compliance is net optional because non-compliance means losing access to the ecosystem your digital life depends on. This is lock-in at the identity level, not at the application level, not at the file format level, at the most fundamental level possible. Your identity, the key that you and NL hawks your digital existence, is owned and controlled by a corporation whose interests are not aligned with yours. And here's where the T-racking connects to the lock-in in a way that creates something neither could achieve alone. The data Microsoft collects about you through telemetry, through OneDrive, through search, through browsing, through application usage, through typing samples, through Copilot interactions, through recall screenshots if enabled. All of this data is attached to your Microsoft account. It's not floating in an anonymized data lake. It's linked to a specific identity, your identity, an identity that also connects to your email, your files, your purchases, your subscriptions, your devices. The result is a comprehensive digital profile that includes not just what you do on your computer, but who you are, your name, your email address, your physical location, your payment information, your social connections through Outlook contacts, your professional life through LinkedIn, which Microsoft owns, your creative life through documents stored in OneDrive, your G life through Xbox, which Microsoft owns, your communication patterns through Teams and Skype. No other operating system in history has created this kind of unified identity to behavior mapping at the scale Windows 11 achieves, and no other operating system has made this mapping a prerequisite for basic functionality. You literally cannot complete the standard Windows 11 setup without creating or connecting this identity chain. Let me compare this directly to what happens when you set up a Linux machine, because the contrast reveals exactly how abnormal the Windows 11 approach is. When you install Linux Mint, the setup asks you four things: your name, which can be anything you want, a username for your local account, a computer name, and a password. That's it. No email address, no phone number, no cloud echo UNT, no identity verification, no terms of service linking your local machine to a remote corporate infrastructure. The username you create exists on your machine and nowhere else. It's not transmitted to any server. It's not linked to any cloud identity. It's not tied to any subscription. It's a local key that unlocks a local computer. Nothing more. Your files are saved to your hard D. Reeve, not synced to anyone's cloud, not monitored by any service, not included in any behavioral profile. They sit on your physical store-age device, accessible only to you, invisible to every corporation, government, and third party on Earth. No telemetry service runs in background. No diagnostic data is collected. No usage patterns are transmitted. No typing samples are recorded. No browsing history IS cataloged. No application usage is tracked. The computer boots, presents you with a desktop, and waits for your instructions. It is zero network traffic to any corporate server during idle periods. Zero. The absence of tracking isn't a feature that Linux developed RS built. It's the natural state of an operating system that has no business model dependent on collecting your data. Linux doesn't track KU because nobody benefits from tracking you. There's no advertising revenue to feed, no behavioral profiles to build, no centralized identity to lock you into. The incentive simply doesn't exist. And this is the fundamental difference that the $0 Windows upgrade obscue res. It's not that Linux is a privacy tool and Windows is a productivity tool. They're both operating systems that let you browse the WB, write documents, check email, and manage files. The functional capabilities overlap almost entirely for mainstream users. The difference is what happens beneath the functionality. On Linux, nothing happens beneath the functionality. The operating system does what you see it doing and nothing more. On Windows 11, an entire shadow infrastructure operates beneath the surface, collecting data, transmitting telemetry, building profiles, feeding advertising systems, syncing files to corporate servers, and maintaining persistent connections to a cloud identity that ties everything together. That shadow infrastructure is the real product that Microsoft's $0 upgrade delivered to hundreds of millions of computers. Not Windows 11, the operating system. Windows 11, the data collection platform. And here's the part that should make you angry. Not concerned. Not a now. AC. Angry. Because Microsoft didn't just build a tracking system into Windows 11. They built it so that you can't fully remove it. On Windows 11 Home, you cannot disable required diagnostic data. The toggle doesn't exist. The group policy settings aren't available. The registry modifications that work on enterprise editions are either unavailable or ineffective on Home. You can reduce telemetry. You can disable optional data, but you cannot reach zero. Microsoft has designed the consumer edition of Windows 11 so that a minimum level of data collection is permanently, irrevocably, architecturally mandatory. Even on Windows 11 Pro, the options are limited. You can set telemetry to the lowest available level through group policy or registry modifications, but required diagnostic data still flows. The only edition that offers complete telemetry shutdown is Enterprise, which requires a volume licensing agreement and costs significantly more than the consumer editions. The privacy hierarchy is explicit. Consumers who pay nothing get the most tracking. Professionals who pay more get somewhat less tracking. Enterprise customers who pay the most get the option to disable tracking entirely. The amount of serverless NC you're subjected to is directly proportional to how much money you're willing to pay Microsoft to stop surveilling you. This is the business model laid bare. The free upgrade isn't subsidized by future license revenue. It's subsidized by your data. And if you want to stop subsidizing Microsoft with your data, you have to pay them money instead. The only way to avoid being the product is to become the customer. And even then, only at the enterprise level, or you can leave. You can install an operating system that doesn't have a Telemetry service, that doesn't require a cloud account, that doesn't sync your files to a corporate server, that doesn't index your search or AS for an advertising platform, that doesn't take typing samples, that doesn't track your application usage, that doesn't run 5,000 CK ground connections to corporate servers while you sleep. That operating system is free, actually free, not free in exchange for your data. Free because the people who built it believe that software should serve its users without extracting a tax for the privilege. Linux Mint costs $0. It collects $0 worth of data from you. The economics are simple because the business model is simple. There is no BU sinus model. There are no shareholders demanding quarterly data monetization growth. There are no advertising partners expecting oral targeting improvements. There are no investor presentations where user data collection is positioned as a competitive advantage. DHR are just developers who want to build a good operating system and users who want to use it without being watched. That's the choice. Windows 11, which costs $0 and takes everything it can measure about your behavior, your identity, your files, and your habits, or LinUX, which costs $0 and takes nothing. The same price, radically different products. One gives you an operating system and extracts your data as payment. The other gives you an operating system and asks for nothing in return. Microsoft's dirty secret isn't that Windows 11 tracks you. Anyone who's paying attention already suspects that. The dirty secret is the scale, the comprehensiveness, the architectural impossibility of fully opting out on consumer editions, the financial structure that makes your data more valuable than your money, the deliberate design that ensures maximum collection from users who accept defaults, which is the vast majority of users. And the dirtiest. Part of the secret is this. They told you it was free. They marketed it as a gift. They positioned the upgrade as Microsoft doing something generous for its user base, and hundreds of millions of people accepted that framing without ever asking the question that matters. If the product is free, what are they selling? They're selling you, your behavior, your patterns, your habits, your attention, your ID entity, packaged, processed, and delivered to an advertising infrastructure that generates billions in annual revenue. The $0 upgrade is the most profitable product Microsoft has ever released. Not because of what it gives you, because of what it takes. And it's taking from you right now, in the background, silently, while you weren't looking. The only question is whether you'll keep paying.